Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing part 3 of the Summer-Ween Halloween DIYs. For this project, I'm using a wood mannequin. You can get these at IKEA, but I actually purchased mine off of Amazon. I got 3 of them actually for the price that you would get one from IKEA. So I'll have these exact ones linked in my Amazon storefront. Now you could leave these the raw wood, but I want to make mine a little darker to go with the rest of my decor. So I'm using a small paintbrush and some antiquing wax, and I'm going to go over this in small sections, painting it and then wiping it off. And I'm going to be turning him into a mummy, so I'm going to be using some of this sheer frayed ribbon that I got from Amazon, and I'm going to actually cut this in half, or rather rip it. So I'm just going to make a small cut in the top of it and then just rip this ribbon all the way down. Now if you want to, you can use some hot glue to attach this to the back of the mannequin. I just tied it in a knot to start with, and then I'm just going to start wrapping it. I started down his torso and then down one leg. Once I get to the end of the first leg, I will wrap this back up around his leg to make it go in the opposite direction, and then just continue wrapping this all the way up his torso. Then once I get up his chest, I will go down and back up one of his arms. By then, this piece of ribbon was running out, so I flipped him over and actually just tied another knot on the back side of him. And then I'm gonna just use something to tuck this down into the rest of the bandages. To start the second piece of ribbon, I am again just tying a knot at the back and tucking that knot down into the bandages. Then I will do his other arm and his other leg and a little more of his torso. To wrap his head, I did use a little bit of hot glue and then just secured that piece of ribbon to the back of his head. I finished it off by just wrapping this ribbon around 2 times and then again securing that with a little bit of hot glue. Then to make his bandages look old and dingy, I just went in with a dry brush of some antiquing wax and went over all those bandages. For the next mannequin, I decided to make a witch on this one, and I am going to start out by using some of that antiquing wax just on the head, neck, and the hands. I also did the legs and the feet, but I changed that later to black. So then I just went in with some black chalk paint and did the chest, torso, arms, feet, and the bottom part of the legs. Then I wanted to add a skirt, so I am using this Dollar Tree Halloween fabric from last year, and I'm just gonna grab this from corner to corner and then lay it out. And I'm gonna cut this in kind of a semi-circle going around so that I can make this skirt. And it's gonna kind of be in a cone shape, and once I have that done, then I want to make a few little hems. I did the top part, which is going to go around her waist, and then the 2 side parts just using some hot glue. Then I'm going to attach the skirt at the back of the mannequin using some hot glue. I also glued down the skirt on the back side as well. Then my witch obviously needed a hat, so I just used the top of a paint bottle and drew a circle to cut out on that same fabric, and then I made a small cone shape to make for the top of the hat. And again, I'm just going to roll that top piece of the hat up into that cone shape and use some hot glue to connect the sides. Then I just hot glued the top piece to that bottom piece, and then I can add this to the top of the mannequin's head just by using a little bit more hot glue. To finish her off, I'm just going to add some of this black velvet ribbon, and I'm going to add this to the witch hat and also just around her belt line. For the third and final mannequin, I wanted to make this into a ghost. I did stain this with some antiquing wax, and then I'm going to be using some of Dollar Tree's cheesecloth to turn this into a ghost. I cut my cheesecloth into a very rough circle, but I wanted to kind of make this a little fun. So I am using this spiderweb stamp and some of my archival ink And I'm just going around this cheesecloth and very randomly adding some of that spiderweb stamp. Then all I had to do was just place this over the mannequin and arrange it how I wanted to, just adding a little drop of hot glue on his head. For this project, I'm just going to be using this really rustic piece of wood. This actually came from a sign that I got from the thrift store, and I used the other side to make a book holder in a previous video, but I'm going to be using this piece to make an asylum sign. So I ended up making this graphic in Canva and then just used my inkjet printer to print it off. And to transfer this sign over to the wood, I'm just going to be using some carbon paper that I got from Amazon. So I'll just situate the carbon paper first, put my sign on top, and then tape both of these down to the wood piece so they're not moving around. Then I'm just going to use the little pressure tool that comes with the carbon paper, and I'm going to go over my entire sign. Once I've finished, then this will leave an imprint on the wood so that I can go over it with my black paint marker. I'm just going to do the outline with my marker because I don't want to waste my paint markers, and also I actually just find it easier to use smaller paint brushes and some black paint to go over this sign. But of course, if you prefer, you can fill this all in with a paint marker. To finish this sign off, I'm just going to be using this spiderweb stamp, and I'm going to just be doing the corners. So I'm not pressing this down into the ink totally, just doing the edges of this stamp. This project is inspired by this ghost hologram mirror from Pottery Barn. I saw this a few weeks ago and knew I had to try to dupe this one because $400 is a lot of money for a mirror. So I'm going to be doing a smaller version of this using a thrift store frame. Found this really pretty one, and also I am going to be using my digital photo frame. Now, you don't have to have a digital photo frame for this. You could use a tablet or maybe an old phone that you have. And recently I shared this in my Instagram stories, and someone told me that someone actually made one of these using an old TV. Now, as you can see, my digital photo frame doesn't exactly fit into this picture frame, but since this is the picture frame I wanted to use and the size I wanted to use, I'm just gonna kind of DIY this frame to make it fit my digital photo frame. And you can do the same process if you're using an old tablet or an old phone. I'm just going to be using 4 of these thin wood slats from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut these down to fit inside of this frame. Once I cut them down and make sure that they fit nicely in here, I'm just going to use some wood glue and put this frame together and let it dry for a few hours. I also ended up adding a few staples to the back side of this. Once it was dry, I sat it back down into the frame and added in my digital picture frame so that I could make a little ledge around this wood frame for the digital photo frame to sit on. So I just cut down 2 pieces of square wood dowels and glued those to the top and the bottom. Then I'm going to use 2 thinner pieces of wood. These are actually just paint stir sticks that I cut down, and I'm going to glue those to the square wood dowels so that this will hold my digital picture frame. After everything was dry, I took this piece outside and spray painted it with some Rust-Oleum Gold spray paint. I also sprayed these wood appliques that I'm going to add to the picture frame. And I'm just using some wood glue to set these down in the picture frame to give it a little more pretty detail. Then to make everything nice and cohesive, I am using some European gold rub and buff, going over the frame, the appliques, and the little wood insert that I made. To make the actual mirror, I am going to be using this magnetic mirrored screen protector that I had for my iPad. I had this one from a few years ago from Best Buy, but you can just use the mirrored window film for this if you wanted to, or a two-way mirror sheet. This one is kind of made out of a silicone material, so I was able to just cut this one down a little bit to fit my digital picture frame. But instead of applying this to the front of my digital picture frame, I am going to staple this to the back of the wood frame that I made. And my digital picture frame has Wi-Fi, so all I had to do was look up a ghost hologram on YouTube and then play it on this screen.